This is the Revised Penal Code or the RPC. The focus of our discussion is all about Article 2 of the Revised Penal Code or the RPC. Purpose. The purpose of this discussion is to make the student understand what is all about Article 2 of the Revised Penal Code by means of giving further explanations and examples. What are the elements of Article 2 of the RPC? Article 2. Application of its provisions. Except as provided in the treaties and laws of preferential application, the provisions of this code shall be enforced not only within the Philippine archipelago, including its atmosphere, its interior waters, and maritime zone, but also outside of its jurisdiction against those who, number 1, should commit an offense while on a Philippine ship or airship. Number 2, should forge or counterfeit any coin or currency note of the Philippine Islands or obligations and securities issued by the government of the Philippine Islands. Number 3, should be liable for acts connected with the introduction into these islands of the obligations and securities mentioned in the preceding number. In number 4, while being public officers or employees, should commit an offense in the exercise of their functions, or number 5, should commit any of the crimes against national security and the law of nations defined in Title I of Book 2 of this code. What is Article 2 all about? Article 2 speaks about the scope of application of the code. There are two applications of the RPC. In letter A, we have the intra-territorial, wherein the RPC can be applied within the Philippine archipelago, including its atmosphere, interior waters, and maritime zone. Explanation. Here, the application of the RPC can be applied inside the territory of the Philippines. If there is a crime committed in the Philippines, regardless of the nationality of the person, the RPC will govern and not the nationality of the person, even if it is an alien or a Filipino citizen. We have also the letter B, extraterritorial. Here, the RPC may be given application even to those crimes committed outside the Philippine territorial jurisdiction. Explanation. In letter B, we are talking about the exceptions under paragraph 1 to 5. Article 2 of the Revised Penal Code, meaning, pursuant to these exceptions, the RPC can be applied even the crime is committed outside the Philippines. Take note, when the question asks for the exceptions, do not include in the answer the intra-territorial application in paragraph 1, for that is the general rule. We have the example of law of preferential application. This is the treaties and laws of preferential application, such as Republic Act 75 on immunity of diplomatic representatives of foreign countries, prevail over the provisions of the RPC. Under international laws, sovereigns, heads of states, and their official representatives enjoy immunity from suit. The Vienna Convention on Diplomatic Relations, or the VCDR, states the 3 levels of heads of diplomatic missions. Thus, number 1, ambassadors or nuncios accredited to the heads of states. Second, envoys, ministers, or internuncios accredited to the head of state. Third, charges d'affaires accredited to the ministers of foreign affairs. Take note, comprising the staff of the diplomatic mission are the diplomatic staff, the administrative, and the technical and service staff. However, only the head of missions, as well as members of the diplomat staff, excluding the members of the administrative, technical, and service staff, are accorded diplomatic rank. Only diplomat agents are vested with blanket diplomatic immunity from civil and criminal suits. The Vienna Convention on Diplomatic Relations, or the VCDR, defines diplomatic agents as the head of missions or members of the diplomatic staff, withholding the same privileges from all others. Even consuls, who represent the respective states in concerns of commerce and navigation and perform certain administrative and notarial duties, do not ordinarily enjoy the traditional diplomatic immunities and privileges accorded diplomats, because they are not charged with the duty of representing their states in political matters. Take note that the main yardstick in ascertaining if a person is a diplomat entitled to immunity is whether or not he performs duties of a diplomatic nature. Mere invocation of the immunity clause does not ipso facto result in the dropping of the charges in court. There is still a need to inquire whether the accused is covered by the provisions of the immunity clause. Under the VCDR, a diplomatic agent enjoys immunity from criminal jurisdiction of the receiving state, except in the case of an action relating to any professional or commercial activity exercised by the diplomatic agent in the receiving state outside of his official functions. Let me now discuss to you the exceptions under Article 2 of the RPC, starting from paragraph 1 to 5. First exceptions. Number 1, should commit an offense while on a Philippine ship or airship. The explanation here is that this is subject to the limitation that the vessel is not within the territorial jurisdiction of another country. Otherwise, the latter's laws will govern, because penal laws are primarily territorial. The Philippines will have jurisdiction only if the foreign country did not assume jurisdiction. The country of registry, not the ownership, determines its nationality. Thus, a Filipino-owned ship registered in Panama is a Panamanian ship. We have the French or English rules, which refers to the jurisdiction over merchant vessels of one country located in another country. The effect on jurisdiction over the crime committed in a merchant vessel under either rule is about the same, because the general rule of one is the exemption in the other. Thus, what is French rule? French rule recognizes flag or nationality of vessel. The country of registry will have jurisdiction but when the crime violated the peace and order of the host country, such as drug trafficking, the host country will have jurisdiction. How about what is English rule? English rule adheres strictly to the territoriality principle or situs of the crime. The country of registry will have jurisdiction only where the crime relates to internal management of vessel. In other cases, such as drug trafficking, the host country will have jurisdiction. Second and third exceptions. Should forge or counterfeit any coin or currency note of the Philippine Islands or obligations and securities issued by the government of the Philippine Islands. The number 3 exception should be liable for acts connected with the introduction into these islands of the obligations and securities mentioned in the preceding number. Here is the explanation. If forgery committed abroad, it must involve only Philippine coin, currency, note, or obligations and securities. We have now the fourth exceptions. While being public officers or employees should commit an offense in the exercise of their functions. Example under the fourth exception. Example, a Philippine official sent to a war-torn country who absconds with public funds intended for repatriation of overseas Filipino workers or the OFW. Without this relation, they are acting in their private capacity and hence bound by the law of the host country. Fifth exception. Should commit any of the crimes against national security and the law of nations, defined in Title I of Book 2 of this Code. Explanation. Title I of Book 2 on Crimes Against National Security and the Law of Nations, which covers treason, espionage, provoking war, and disloyalty in case of war, piracy and mutiny, but not rebellion. When rebellion is committed abroad, the Philippine courts will not acquire jurisdiction because rebellion is a crime against public order. If you have any questions or suggestions, feel free to comment below. We will try to discuss it next time. Thank you.